Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected student. How are you? Today I'm here uh, with third online lecture on separation techniques. And in today's lecture, we will discuss what is thin layer chromatography. And in this topic, we will try to cover stationary phase, TLC plate preparation, mobile phase, and preferred method for TLC development in TLC. And our next topic will be principle of TLC. And in this topic, we will discuss the RF value, RF calculations, TLC visualization methods, and then we will discuss the application of TLC. This is the part A. In next part, in today's lecture, we will try to cover theories of chromatography, in which we will focus on plate theory and red theory. Let us start today's lecture. The first one is what is thin layer chromatography. If you remember, we have discussed various type of chromatography in our past physical lecture. TLC is a simple and fast analytical technique used to determine or monitor the number of components in a mixture. Means, for example, how many components are present in a mixture. It is also used to identify the two substances, and it is also used to just monitor the appropriate conditions for a column and chromatographic separations. And during some synthetic organic chemistry, we used TLC to monitor the progress of a reaction. These are some very important functions of a TLC. And if you look, that the TLC consists of a glass sheet or the aluminum foil, which is coated with the layer of absorbent. A generally used absorbent are silica gel or alumina, and sometimes for the identification of polar compound, we also use RP8 and RP18 TLC, which is also known as reverse phase TLC. RP8 means um, it contains octane chain, and RP18 means octadecyl silane chain, vice versa. These are some example of the stationary phase. You can see, for example, silica gel, and generally silica gel consists of 15 micrometer of particle size containing 13% of calcium sulfate as a binding agent, and it is widely used in pharmaceutical industries as well, and in research lab as well. And sometimes we also have a silica gel, which is active in 254. 254 means we added a fluorescence, and we can see this silica gel containing TLC under the UV light at 254 nanometer. We also have some, as I mentioned in the previous slide, ammonia ammonia with the fluorescence added, and we can monitor for some time the medium polar compound. We also used cellulose as a stationary phase, and of course almost 30 micrometer of particle size cellulose are used, and these are some compound who can be identified on the TLC if cellulose is using as an absorbent. Okay, this is basically a some sequence that how we prepare the TLC plate. As I mentioned previously, that we generally use a commercially available plate, but if we not have a commercially available plate, these plate can be prepared in our lab as well. For example, we can use silica gel, and we can mix silica gel with some absorbent, and we can use some absorbent like calcium sulfate and water, vice versa, and it can be sprayed as a slurry on a glass sheet or the aluminum foil or the plastic foil. Now these coated containing glass sheet with the silica gel can be preheat in the oven just to remove the water content. Generally we use a thickness of the layer on the glass sheet or the aluminum foil is around 0.1 to 0.25 millimeter for the analytical purpose, and around 0.5 to 2.0 millimeter for the preparative TLC, means for use for in quantification purpose, vice versa. Okay, these are some solvents which are used in TLC and solvent system. For example, we use hexane uh, in order to observe the non-polar compound. We sometimes use carbon tetrachloride, chloroform, ethyl acetate, and we sometimes prefer the mixture of different percentages. For example, 8 9 ml hexane and 1 ml ethyl acetate, or 8 ml hexane or 2 ml ethyl acetate, or sometimes we use methanol as a solvent as well, in combination with chloroform. So we have a variety of the solvent system to be used in TLC for the identification of the compound. And generally, we prefer the volatile organic solvent, which is basically used as a mobile phase, because volatile organic solvents can easily evaporate it. As I mentioned, we have several methods, as we have mentioned in the paper chromatography. Uh, we preferred two main method in TLC development. One is ascending development from bottom to top, and second one is two dimensional development, just to increase the RF value if two compound is very close to each other. This is very useful method in order to obtain or to separate two compound. Now, what is the principle of the TLC? As I mentioned, there are some certain rule. The sample should be dissolved in a volatile solvent and it should be completely soluble. Definitely, this is the first principle, first rule to develop a TLC. And we have to apply the sample with the help of the capillary tube, and on the TLC by marking the baseline. And keep remember, student, always mark the baseline with the help of the pencil, because pencil mark is not affected by the solvent. The plate is dipped into the solvent, working as a mobile phase. This is the next principle. And as the mobile phase rise up, the TLC plate by capillary reaction, the components dissolve in the solvent and move up. And next principle is the adsorption. Separation will occur on the basis of the differences in adsorption. Weakly adsorbed component will separate out first, and then a strongly adsorbed component will be separate out later. If we are using the partition chromatography, the component is soluble in the mobile phase, it will move with the solvent and then vice versa. And the movement of the solute is measured relative to that of the solvent, is expressed as the retardation factor or RF factor as well. Okay, this is the further explanation of the principle that if we are using a silica coated TLC, of course, silica is polar in nature. So what happened in this case, more polar substances bind strongly to the adsorbent and elute the slower, while non-polar substance will elute first, as I mentioned here. The strength of the interaction between the adsorbent and the eluting components vary approximately in this order. Okay, this is basically, we have the criteria. Now let us see that how basically TLC run, and when we have this, let's say for example, this is a TLC and these are two component, and we are using silica based or silica coated TLC. Definitely silica is polar in nature, it will try to adsorb strongly the polar compound and it will elute faster the non-polar component. What happened by this way, the non-polar component will elute faster while the polar component will elute slower, because it is bind with the silica as well. All right. Okay, now the next topic, which is very important, the calculation of the RF value. Now this point is very important in order to identify the compound, because at certain solvent, when we are using a same different solvent, and a different solvent, different compound have the different RF value. All right. Now, point is, for example, how we can calculate the RF value. This is the formula in order to calculate the RF value, the distance traveled by the substance divided by the distance traveled by the solvent front. What is solvent front? The solvent which is traveling here. For example, in this case, this is the original plate and this is the spot. When we dip this TLC plate into the solvent, of course, this compound will elute, and if it is a mixture of two components, these components will separate out, and beside this the solvent which we are dipping this TLC will elute as well, and this is the mark of the solvent front. Now this is the distance traveled by the solvent and these are the distance traveled by the component. Now we always take the center of the each spot and we just mm, calculate its distance from the starting point. Let's say, for example, this is 22 millimeter traveled by this compound and 50 millimeter traveled by this compound 2, and the total distance traveled by the solvent which is 65 millimeter. Then how we can calculate the RF for compound 1 and RF for compound 2? Just divided the distance traveled by these compound divided by the total distance traveled by the solvent, which is this one, and the RF for compound 1 is 0.34 and the RF for compound 2 is 0.77. Now student, keep remember RF is a ratio and it cannot be greater than 1. It always basically having less than 1, and the good always or the, the best RF value is in between 0.2 to 0.8. Okay, some more example in order to show you that how the RF calculation can be used. See, for example, this TLC having A, B, U, C, and D spots, and A spot is this here. You can see here this traveled by 2 centimeter, and B, U, C, and D. U is basically having two components. We can say U1 and U2 as well. And this is how we can calculate the RF of A, B, C, D, U1, and U2. Just you can see that the solvent front or the distance traveled by the solvent is 5 centimeter. We are just dividing the distance traveled by the component by 5 centimeter, and you can see here all these values are less than 1, and these are the RF values. Now come to the next point, that which type of visualization methods are used in order to monitor the TLC. Generally, if we cannot see the compound on the naked eye, we use the UV light. And for the preferred UV light, we have two type of the wavelength, 254 nanometer and 365 nanometers are being used. And if compounds are not monitored or observed in the UV light, we may also use some other locating agent. There are various locating agent, or we can say the spraying agents are, who can make the reaction with the compound absorbed on the TLC. For example, if we spray the drag and drop reagent, it is especially used in order to observe the alkali. Alkali gives some intense color. And if we use the antimony chloride spray, it can be used for the glucosides observation. If we have taken the TLC for amino acids, and amino acids can be monitored by the spraying or dipping into the ninhydrin solution. We can also use cerium sulfate, or which is also known as ceric sulfate, for the conjugated system. And we also use iodine as a locating agent as well for terpenes and vice versa, so many compounds. There are various applications of TLC. TLC can be used for both, for qualitative analysis and for quantitative analysis. As I mentioned, for qualitative analysis, all it can be used to just determine that how many compounds are there, or what is the RF values differences. While if we are using TLC for the quantitative analysis, how we can use it? For example, the size of the spot increases with the amount, square root of the spot area is found out, and the amount of the solute can be find out in order to use TLC as a quantitative purpose. And potentiodensimetry of the plate is carried out in order to use TLC as a quantitative analysis. And if separated spot is removed by knife edge on the TLC, and this silica, which is basically removed by the knife, can be dissolved in a proper solvent, and this amount can be used to find out the volumetric analysis. So these are some method by which we can use TLC as a quantitative analysis. Other application of TLC, it is applicable in the field of medicine preparation, in pharmaceutical preparation, and it is also used as a natural product extract and the related compound. And TLC can also be used in order to check the purity of some radiopharmaceutical compound. And it is also used in plant pigment observations and in forensic lab. So we have several use of TLC. Now, next topic is theories of chromatography. We will discuss in these theories of chromatography the plate theory and the rate theory. First one, the plate theory, it was given by the two scientists named are Martin and Sinch. And this is the equation which is used by the Martin and Sinch to calculate the plate theory. HETP equal to the L over N. What is HETP and what is L over N? We can see here. HETP means height equivalent to the theoretical plate, and L is basically the length of the column, which basically determine the number of plate, and N is basically the number of theoretical plates. Now, how we can utilize, say for example, this is a picture of the column, and each layer or each surface of basically the silica is known as HETP. Okay, the efficiency of separation increases as the number of theoretical plates increases. Now, I will explain the plate theory by means of this example. Consider we have a column or a TLC plate, and this column or a TLC plate consists of 5 theoretical plate, yeah, 5 HETP. All right, these basically I'm just mentioning here the 5 HETP 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, these are basically the theoretical plates. Now, I'm just dividing imaginary displayed in the two part, the stationary phase and the mobile phase. S stand for the stationary phase and M stand for the mobile phase, as I mentioning here as well. Now this is just the imagination to give you the idea. This is not basically having in experimentally, just to give you the hypothesis of what is happening in the plate theory. Now what happened next? If we are loading 80 gram of the sample as a on the stationary phase, and then we are eluting the sample by using the mobile phase, it will equilibrate all theoretical plates by dividing its total amount. Now what happened, initially the 80 gram will be divided into the solvent, or you can say the stationary phase and the mobile phase, by this way the 40 gram, and then this solvent when pass on the next theoretical plate, the 40 gram will be shift to the next plate by this way, and this next plate will shift 20 gram to the stationary phase, and this 20 gram will be shifted to the mobile phase, like in this way. So this is basically known as the equilibration process. Now ultimately this 20 gram from the second theoretical plate will be traveled to the third theoretical plate by this way, and similarly again the process of the equilibration take place by this way. Okay, and ultimately uh, the solute, which is basically the analyte, will shift from third theoretical plate to the fourth theoretical plate by this way. All right, now again the equilibration process take place like in this way, and ultimately what happened, the fourth theoretical plate containing solute will be shifted towards the fifth theoretical plate by this way. All right, and then the equilibration process takes place. Now, how the graph or the compound peak will be observed once we see or monitor, it looks like this way. For example, this is the last part of the theoretical plate, and I'm just making it horizontal. Now, this is basically a graph. Okay, you can see the the concentration of the analyte in between the peak. Okay, and this peak observed when we are having the five theoretical plate. Now, just keep remember, by increasing the theoretical plate, the separation will be much good. While when we have the less number of the theoretical plate, the separation will be not too much good, like in this way. Say for example, if this compound having only three theoretical plate, this will be the separation peak, vice versa. Okay, now next topic is the Van Demeter equation, which is used to calculate the rate theory as well. For example, Van Demeter equation is basically consists of three part, A, B, C equation as well. Now, what is A, what is B, what is C, and what is new as well in this case? HTTP, I already explained. A is here the eddy diffusion, which is also known as the multi-path effect, while B is the longitudinal diffusion, C is the mass transfer rate, and nu is basically the flow rate of the mobile phase. Now, let us discuss each and every component of this Van Demeter equation. The eddy diffusion. Okay, now eddy diffusion, as you can see, that silica is actually consists of various size of the particles, and when compound travel to the silica gel, it can achieve different path. It can achieve the shorter path, or it can achieve the longer path as well to be elute out from the column. And as I mentioned, this figure represents the different path of three different molecules traveling through the packed bed of particle. Now, a key factor which you have to be take in your mind, that the eddy diffusion is to ask whether the difference in the length between the shortest and the longest path depend at all on the diameter of the particle. Actually, this depend on the path of the path of the or we can say the distance traveled by the molecule. This eddy diffusion do not depend on the size of the particle. Keep remember this point. Okay. Some packed column exhibit channeling as well. What do you mean by the channeling? Channeling is basically the straight path which lead to the significant and undesirable amount of the eddy diffusion. All right, this may cause or this may affect the eddy diffusion, means channeling or the straight path when a distance traveled by the molecule may affect one of the factor, which is eddy diffusion. All right, eddy diffusion do not observed in basically a GC column. Why we do not have basically observed eddy diffusion in the GC column? Because we have two type of the GC column, O cot and W cot. O cot means open tubular column, or we have a wall coated tubular column. We do not have basically a silica generally inserted into the long GC column. That's why this factor of eddy diffusion do not observe in case of the GC, as I mentioned here. So if we take this Van Demeter equation in case of a GC, the factor A, which is the eddy diffusion, will be 0 because it is negligible in case of a GC or gas chromatography. The second factor or second part of the equation is the longitudinal diffusion. This is basically, you can see a graph or the picture. It is on left side shows the band of a compound on the chromatography column. It is the representation on the right side shows the concentration or the profile of the band, like in this way. And more concentration is at the middle. Okay, what happened when we allow this band to stop in the column? It would slowly diffuse out from its central region and lead to broadening of the concentration profile. Now, this is diffusion phenomena and it is the property of the gases, and generally longitudinal diffusion occur in gas chromatography. It is not observed in column chromatography or the plate chromatography or thin layer chromatography. All right. Now, as I mentioned, diffusion is the property of the gas, and gas always choose a shortest route to be elute out, and it only occurs in the GC. It is not observed in the column chromatography. So the form of the Van Demeter equation in column chromatography will be A plus C nu. There is B is negligible or zero in case if we have the column chromatography. Mass transfer rate, we can divide mass transfer rate into two terms, Cm term and the Cs term. Okay, this term represents the resistance to mass transfer between adjacent streamline of the mobile phase, while Cs term um, is the resistance to mass transfer as the solute to the stationary phase interface. Okay, Cs term is directly proportional to the effective thickness of the stationary phase and inversely proportional to the diffusion coefficient of the solid into the stationary phase. Okay, now as you can see, this is basically we consider if it's a column, and we can divide this mass transfer with two basically the bound is the CS term and the CM term. CS term is in the stationary phase while CM term is in the mobile phase. Now a stronger interaction can affect the mass transfer rate, while the weaker interaction between these two phases can have the different effect on the mass transfer rate. Now, these are basically the factors which can affect the mass transfer. CM term, for example, particle size, linear velocity of the mobile phase, diffusion coefficient in the mobile phase, porosity of the packing particle, viscosity of the mobile phase, retention factor, and temperature. These all factors can affect the CM term in the mass transfer, while the CS term can be affected by these of the factors like particle size, diffusion coefficient in the stationary phase, porosity of the packing particle, mobile phase velocity, retention factor, and temperature. That's all for the today's lecture.